Welcome in. Hey, Elena. Thank you for
Hey,
coming in.
no problem. Hi, everybody.
Well, I'll let it wait for about 5 minutes, but meanwhile, if you want to introduce yourself and everything, and then if everybody wants to start asking their questions, we'll read them off to you. Pretty simple.
Okay, cool. Since I can hardly, I'm super nearsighted, so like reading while I'm doing this
I know
is
it's way over
impossible.
here for me with big old reading
It's
glasses on
like
right now.
I've got the chat going over here, so if you look at me, you see me looking over there. Well, hi everybody. I'm Elena Anderson. I am with Black Sheep 303 Creative. I don't know if you can see that back here. Probably. Um, I am I guess I'm an electronic cutting machine crafter more than anything else. When I first started out with my blog, I was a traditional card maker. So I worked with stamps and dyes and inks and did a lot of coloring and, colored pencils and alcohol markers and all that good stuff. So I know how to do all that stuff, but in 2021, it was late 2020, I think maybe during the pandemic, I decided I was going to kind of switch over to more like Cricut scan and cut silhouette projects because I really like digital crafts. So I knew I could design SVGs, and so I wanted to do that. And mostly I designed cards more than anything else, although I design other things too. I have quite a bit of sublimation going on now, but cards are sort of still my one true love. It's what I started out with. And so my project for this fun thing was I created the fall embellishments. They're an SVG file that you cut out with your Cricut or your Silhouette or whatever machine you've got. And then I used distress inks in my video to kind of jazz them up as well as the background, and created this little, it's a 5x7 card journal embellishment, title for a scrapbook page, could be used as a cover for photos. Who knows? Lots of choices. And then I had a few other ways you could use these. You can just cut the outline layers and just stick them together, collage them on a background for like a funky background. You can also stick them down with like some kind of repositionable spray and ink over them to create like a fun pattern. You could even do that with like this kind of thing to create an entire background if you wanted to. But that was my project for this. If you guys want to see any other card designs, I can show you that. I've done a few different things where I like to sort of jazz up more simpler designs. So this would be like a really, really bland insert. Accordion parties. Insert card that you can just get off of like Cricut Design Space, and it's cute, but it's not real exciting. But I think if you add some ink to it, you can just, bling it up quite a bit more, make it a lot prettier, kind of personalize it a little bit. So I think my combination of sort of traditional card making with the Cricut stuff comes together to hopefully make kind of step up the Cricut cards a little bit. And you have to excuse me because I have horrible allergies, so my nose is constantly running. So,
Yeah, good. I'm right there with you. My tissue box is like right there. So if you see me do this,
yep, mine's like over here.
I'm constantly like, oh shoot. So love the cars, everything. Good afternoon. Hello, good morning. Susan reminded me to stop and start the recording. Sorry about that. But I'm good at splicing things together, so we can do that. Is there an easy to learn Cricut get to know that you would recommend? I guess a get to know you guide or a quick, easy learn Cricut guide that you would recommend.
Oh boy. There's quite a few people who have very good like beginner courses or free content like on their YouTube channels. I mean, you can learn how to do things on my YouTube channel, but if you want to like go from like the very beginner basics, you know, Abby Kirsten has a really good course. Sean Mosh has a really good course. Jennifer Maker has a really good course, of course. And those are the three that kind of Bet Dow is another one who does really good stuff with cricket. And a lot of those people have free stuff too, that can get you into learning cricket. It's not tough. It just takes practice, basically. And each program, because I know how to use Cricut, Silhouette, and Scan and Cut, each program for them is different. And some are easier to learn than others, but all of them have like little quirks as far as things that you have to learn to do to get things to cut the way you want them to. Um, so like I do a lot of in summits, I'm usually doing card projects, and that's kind of, if you like making cards, that can be a good way. Some of the summits where you, especially Cricut specific ones, where you can get some tips on like how to cut things out in Cricut Design Space, because there's certain steps you have to take to like get the lines to score properly. And I'm also big on the material setting that you use to cut out intricate cuts is important, and that can be easily messed up if you don't know what you're doing. So my big tip, if you were a Cricut user, for cutting out intricate cardstock, like here's an example of a card that has very skinny lines in it, but you can cut that with your Cricut, as long as you're using the right cardstock and the right setting. So I recommend 65-pound 176 GSM cardstock for like the top layers of cards. And then depending on the machine you have, the setting that should use for that is cardstock for intricate cuts if you are on a larger machine. If you're on a Joy or a Joy Extra, then I suggest you use medium cardstock setting, since cardstock for intricate cuts is not a choice for the Joy and the Joy Extra.
Yeah. Got some people just saying same question for the Silhouette. So funny. Those are all the same people I would have recommended also. Elena is a good for Cricut too. Yes, definitely. Yep, that messing it up is what I've been doing. LOL. I will see if I can find some help before I get rid of my machine. Don't get rid of your machine. We all
Yeah,
have
don't,
classes.
yeah.
Believe me, I've been teaching it for like, gosh, going on 15 years or something like that. I like the option you gave on cutting off parts of the outline parts to get a totally different look. I'm thinking of using the outlines with print and cut to make a fall coloring page for
Mhm.
the kids at my church.
Oh, you
Um,
could totally do that. Yeah, that'd be
Charlene
fun.
made that card. Uh,
Yeah.
Thank you for all your beautiful designs. We have a question for Karen. If you want, we can put your question in her thread, and then that way she can answer it after as well. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all the questions so far. So let's see. We got 30 people in here now. Looks like everybody's waking up and popping in now. I know what projects are you currently working on?
I have two upcoming summits where I'm working on the editing the videos right now. I'll give you a sneak peek. So this one's coming up, as is this one, which is an easel card.
Cute.
So those are the two. Those will be coming up this fall. Uh, boy, I've been working on a lot of sublimation designs, just weird, funky ones. Like I'm kind of into the mid-century modern mode right now, so I'm doing a lot of holiday mid-century stuff. So that's what I've been working on a lot lately. I'm also trying to come up with more pop-up cards, because I have a few pop-up cards that I love, and I think most people love. Like this one is older, but that's a fun one. And then I've got this one.
Those are my
It's a
favorite.
Mother's Day card. Um, this was in Abby Kirsten's summit in the spring. This one was in the Cricket Card Summit last spring, I think. Although I don't think that's being done anymore. Um, So I'm going to have a Father's Day pop-up for the next Card Maker Success Summit. So can look for that one. Haven't started designing it yet, but I will soon because it's due soon.
Yeah, if you're
Uh,
not on Elena's mailing list, make sure you get on it because she does a lot of
yeah,
fun.
I
It's
will
way
harass you
more
with
life.
events.
Yeah. Christy said that haven't had a chance to watch your video, so I'm wondering what kind of inks you feel are the easiest to blend.
Ooh. I'm a big fan of Distress ink and Distress oxides. I think Distress oxides are easier to blend than Distress inks. Um, Catherine Pooler inks are pretty easy to blend too, I feel like. But I think that the key to success with ink blending is the paper you use because like in my video it's not pretty. Like the especially the background of the thing when I kind of blend those on, it looks terrible. Um, I'm not going for like a smooth blend by any stretch, but that's okay because I'm covering it up with other stuff. But if you want to get like a really like, here's an example of a card I made a long time ago, like where it's smoothly blending into it. It's, everything's, you need some good paper for that. And I always use Bristol Smooth cardstock is what I used because that really allows I guess whatever tool you're using to blend to really like slide over the paper and blend that ink together in a really nice sort of seamless way. And it does take practice. You're not going to get it like right off, but have fun with it and just mess around. Take some scratch paper, and just practice. And good, I mean, I started out with like the little Ranger like foam tool, that you can buy that works. You can get a good result. I do think there are better tools now. Like I use in the video, I use like stencil brushes. I really like these because I think that it allows you to kind of vary the pressure. So, you can go really lightly or really heavy, depending on how much ink you want to transfer. And I would say going lighter in the beginning as you blend things together is better. You can always add on. It's tough to take it away. But there are cool effects you can get with water, of course, with distress inks and distress oxides. So
See,
spraying water on is fun, all kinds of stuff like that. There's also like fun, like here's an example of a background on under a card. So you can sort of see the similarity between the elements here that I did with glazes, which is really fun. And those are almost easier to work with. You just got to have some color theory knowledge so you don't make mud. Like you don't want to blend like red and brown will make, or red and green will make brown,
yeah,
like complementary colors, and you mix them together, like become mud. But as long as you're not doing that, or maybe you want to do that, like if you want to get some browns, that works. But those are fun to work with too if you're looking for like a quick win as far as ways to make funky backgrounds.
we got some love the congrats pop-up card. Made it recently. Love the pop-up card too. Love the pop-up cards. We need more cards for men. I love your cards. I think my favorite is the Cherry Blossom Slimline. What
Ah,
program do you use to design the files for your projects?
there's cherry blossom slimline. I use Illustrator, and occasionally I started out using Inkscape because it's free and it's then doable. You can learn it that way. I find Illustrator easier to work with and more, I don't know, less glitchy, I guess, than Inkscape.
Oh,
And occasionally I use Affinity Designer for certain things because that is easier to use for like certain like shapes. For example, they have a lot more shape options than Illustrator does. So that makes making certain shapes easier. So does that help? But I really love Illustrator. Illustrator is my go-to. And Procreate too. I use that.
I think we've
You
all
have to
gone
have an
through
iPad.
the Inkscape glitches, and then you're like, yeah, no, I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. I appreciate you harassing me with your summit reminder emails. You saved me from missing a few of them. Let's see. I
Well,
love
I am
that.
very happy to hear it.
I tried using the paper pouncers yesterday, and I think I now prefer the brushes. Love it. Thanks so much, Elena. Beautiful cards. Was the blessed backwards on that card, or was it just upside down when you showed it? Um,
Oh, I think it's the camera. It is correct when I see it, but I think it might be reversing in the camera possibly.
Coming up okay for me too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not sure.
Or I
It's
might have held it up. Maybe I held it up upside down. I could have done that.
possible.
That's a die, actually. And I don't even know. I think that's Concord and Ninth, and I'm not sure they make that anymore, but you never know.
The Cherry Blossom Slimline is my favorite too, is one of the first cards I made.
Oh, cool.
They're asking Canva with the question mark. I
Mm.
guess, what about Canva? Um,
I use Canva a lot for graphics, not for probably like for emails and my YouTube thumbnails and things like that. I use Canva all the time. I don't use Canva for SVGs at all, although I know you can.
I don't
But
recommend it.
you can use it for sublimation, which is fun.
Yeah, I don't recommend it for SVGs. It doesn't
Mm.
convert them correctly. It
That
just makes
was my
big black holes.
theory. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, you can only really use it to convert like a solid shape. Otherwise, you just end up with a big rectangle or square. It doesn't
Ah,
really do that. I wouldn't recommend it. I love Affinity Designer too. And Susan said, yeah, okay, you held it upside down. You're good.
okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What would you recommend since you're a card maker and you're showing stuff for junk journals? How would you use your card designs in junk journals?
Well, the nice thing about SVGs is that you can scale them. So, without losing any quality. So you could take elements, say like, okay, so let's look at the slimline cherry blossom here. Like you could blow up like make this much bigger if you wanted to and use it in a similar way to what I showed in the video where you're like creating a background because this is the same deal where it's got like the solid layers under the detailed layers. You can also, just maybe you just want to have some cherry blossoms on a junk journal or an art journal for some reason, and you could just, cut parts of it out and just slap it on there. Um, the cool thing about SVGs is that they're basically die cuts. So depending on how you're using them and how detailed they are, you can cut parts away to create something totally different, just collage them together to, create something totally new. If there's the possibilities are endless. I think people get stuck thinking they have to use them the way they see the designer made, oh, they made this project, so I have to make it like that. You gotta let your brain just go nuts and say, no, I'm gonna try something totally different, and just play and see, especially with a journal, like a junk journal or an art journal, you should just be having fun and like trying out new things. And, if you have certain card designs that you like the front, or say you like the words or the sentiments or something, cut those out in some kind of way, blow them up, make them smaller if you can make them smaller, and just stick them in there, in the funky ways that you can make cool collages in an art journal. Because people use stamps all the time, and they're basically the same thing. It's just that you're cutting them out rather than stamping. Does that make sense?
Totally. I love that answer. So let's see. There was a question on your thread. Is the thankful SVG something you supply or something I should create ahead of time? If I create it beforehand, what are the dimensions that are needed?
I think I answered that. Um, you can get that. The word is on my resource library. So if you join my email list, you will get access to that. So you can download it. Like you have to scroll like the on my resource library, there's videos at the top, and then if you go down, and there are like across the top, there's like you can click on click on videos or click on SVGs to just go to that section. And then if you scroll down in that section, there's a little sort of kind of a row that says has some, Thanksgiving themed things, and there is one that says thankful that's on the front that you could use. It's different. Then there's some stickers in the middle, and then if you go to the third row or the third column, there's a bigger design that it says thankful for you, but that's the thankful word. And under that, you can download that whole image as like an image file, or you can download just the word as an SVG.
See.
But if you want to make your own, it is about 4 inches long by about, it's like 1 3/4 inches high, roughly. But you could even make something bigger because I feel like this is almost a little bit too small.
Looks good to me.
That makes sense.
Totally.
Go nuts. Have fun. Create your own.
See, I can imagine there are some really nice lace SVGs, tags and tickets, and other shapes. Definitely. Do you like to decorate the inside of your cards?
Yeah. It depends it depends. I try to usually include some kind of sentiment or something in the inside of a card. Because you gotta have that to finish it off, right? Let's see what I got here. Like here's one that's a Halloween card. It's got,
So cute.
and then we've got two different sentiments on the inside. So yeah.
That's
And then
cute.
of course, with pop-ups, you really gotta actually, this is like me going nutso on the on the inside of the card. So that's a little bit too much almost. I don't know, but I can't help myself. Can't stop.
Yeah, that was the
I
second part
love
of the
embellishing stuff.
that was the second part of the question. Do you put sentiments inside your cards or leave them blank?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part that I ever did when I make cards is I don't know what to put on the inside sometimes. I'll decorate it, but I'm like, do I just stamp a sentiment? Do I border it?
I used to always stamp stuff. That's why I have like a ton of sentiment stamps,
Yeah.
just because it's always good to have, something on hand that's easy. And even at Christmas, even though I love making Christmas cards, I am always behind like on my Christmas cards for people that I send them to. So I always wind up making like one thing that's, an easier design of mine, and then I stamp something in the center, in the inside, just because it goes faster
Yeah.
than cutting it all out and gluing it down usually.
See, we got
Although
comments.
print and cut kind of changes that. And I'm getting more into that lately.
Print and cut's one of my favorites. Let's see. They said, love your cards. Susan said, use what you got. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every
True,
time I
yeah.
purge my stamps, it's the only ones that I'll make sure that I keep in my sentiments because those are hard
Yeah.
to find. Those big
Same.
ones. Let's see. Did I have another question? Um, oh, comments. Okay, let's see. What what are your preferred cardstock brands and weights? That was fun.
So I get a lot of use out of Michael's Recollections cardstock. And I use that almost exclusively like on my cards. And then for the lighter weight cardstock, so 65 pound, 176 GSM. I mentioned earlier that is what I recommend you use on the fronts of cards, especially when you're layering on like a bunch of layers. Like this has 3 layers on the front of it, and some of it's like really intricate. So the only way to get a successful cut with any cutting machine really is to use a lighter weight cardstock. So that 65 pound 176 GSM smooth cardstock is what I recommend for those kinds of cuts. And then for card bases, I always recommend that you use a heavyweight cardstock, which for me is 100 pounds or more, 300 GSM or more, because you want that card to be able to stand up when people are displaying it. If they display it, which hopefully they do. And because if you have like a card where it's got a lot of stuff on it, but the card base itself is too light, it'll just, do this kind of action. And you don't want that to happen. You want it to stand up. And I use Gina K for that a lot, the heavyweight cardstock, especially if you want a colored cardstock. And Recollections, 110 pound is really good for that kind of stuff. And there is a new cardstock that I recently got that I really like also that is Encore cardstock that is from 12 by 12 Cardstock Shop. It's specifically designed for cutting machines. Now it's a little bit heavier, it's 80 pounds, but I have been able to cut the intricate, like different things that I usually make out of that. That's the only time I've ever been able to get successful cuts out of like really intricate designs from a heavier cardstock. Not that 80 pound is super heavy, but other 80 pound, it won't necessarily do it. It's because you got to think about your blade has to cut through all the layers of the fibers that are in your cardstock. And so the lighter cardstock makes it easier for the blade to run and cut all those little intricate little designs, if that makes sense.
Yep. I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you found that your recollection paper has been cutting weird lately? Because mine has, like, really badly.
No.
I used to love it. It was my swear by, is what I send everybody to for my Cricut machine also. And even just cutting on some of my paper cutters. Like I have a Caterpillar and that thing, everything else it cuts fine. But I've been noticing some of my batches of my recollection have been getting really thin and really weird. Because I have old packs of recollection and I have newer packs of recollection and they
Mhm.
don't feel the same anymore. One feels more fibrous and thin and the other one feels great. But I'm like, is it just me?
I haven't noticed that, but if they're cheapening out on their
I'm wondering,
ingredients,
I was
which
like,
they
oh
might be,
no.
maybe the quality is going down. I hope not, because I use it all the time and I still have a ton of it. And I have a whole bunch of new stuff I'm looking at over there that I need to put away, but I don't have space for. Um, I hope not.
Yeah,
But that
Kelly.
can happen, like if the fibers are kind of, not
Yeah, they're like not,
coming
they're, I
together
can
well.
feel it, like when you can feel the paper, I can actually feel fibers now. And I'm like, oh, that's odd. Some
Oh,
people are saying that theirs has, Kelly said hers is too. I blame it on the humidity. Susan's asking is because when I moved to the type of humidity, I would have said yes, but this was happening even before I moved. Okay, let's see. Let me go back. I
I
have,
live in Denver, so I'm really dry climate.
yeah, I was
I
in Vegas
wish we had
before this.
humidity
So
sometimes, so that could be why it's not happening to me. I don't know.
my kids think it's humid here in California, which it really isn't because we were in Vegas before this and it's like dead dry there.
Um,
I know that can't be the problem. I was like, oh, weird. See, we have some questions. How do you store your Cricut accessories for your different machines to keep them separate, Joy versus Maker? I've had a Maker for years and just got a Joy trying to figure out storage. So
I
how do you keep them
I
organized?
guess I'm wondering like I mean, I have the little like blade thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I can grab it. Let's see. Oh, if I can get
Blade
off my
sticker.
chair. This little guy, which is how I store my maker blades. But I kind of have everything. I have stuff in drawers. Like I have all my Cricut pens in one drawer, and then I have all my Cricut Joy pens in a tote. Like all my Cricut Joy stuff is in a tote that all fits together. So I just keep all that stuff together, and then all the regular Cricut stuff I have in drawers,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know I have my Maker like stuff in my Maker, and then my Joy stuff is like in a little cup because it's not that big.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot. I was like, well, how many accessories are there? Oh, there are a lot now that I'm
A
thinking
lot.
about it.
Every time I get a new blade or something, I'm like, oh, where am I gonna put that one? Okay. Let's see. How do you know when it's time to get a new cutting mat?
Well, okay. I never replace my cutting mats. I will use them till the end of time. I restick them with I use Zig 2-in-1 glue to do it, and I have a video on how to do that on my YouTube channel. So like all of my mats for any machine, like even the scan and cut, which where those mats like get lose their stick like super fast, I will re-stick them. The only time I would ever probably throw one out and get a new one would be like if the blade has really like gouged it up, cut through it in some cases. Like the scan and cut mats are really thin, so you can cut through the mat accidentally.
I did that my
Or
first
where,
go around with
yeah.
with those ones. I was like right through it. I was like, oh, they're not like the Cricut ones.
Yeah, whereas yeah, the Cricut ones are like thicker, so that'd be hard to do. But I have like gouged some stuff out of my
Yeah,
Cricut mats on occasion. But usually I just keep going. I just never replace them.
yeah, I'm the
And I
same.
have a lot.
I have some that are like almost as old as my kids. My kids 18 and 17. So yeah, I have some old ones. If they're not broken or fallen, if they have a
Right.
like a bad bump in it,
Y-
then maybe yeah. Or I'll use it for
Yeah.
something else. But they have to break for me to get rid of them. This is the Zig she's talking about.
Yep, yep, exactly.
I can't find the really big one. I've been trying to find the big one again. I haven't been able to find it.
Oh, I hope they
But
haven't
like
gotten rid of that. I love
it's like
that.
a double
Yeah.
size one. I always just
Yeah.
redo them and then fill them if I can't find them.
Oh, nice. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Um, I need Oh, that's something else. My black and white recollection has been cutting weird. Yeah.
Hmm.
Got it. Tell them to come down here to the South Carolina for humidity. Oh yeah, my son is actually in Georgia right now for his first flight. I was freaking out. Let's
I
see.
hope
I
everybody
store mine.
in the Southeast is doing okay right now. I
Yeah,
know
he
it's
actually left like as the day that he was supposed to leave. I'm looking at my phone and TikTok pops up that it's all flooded in Georgia. And I was like, what?
yeah. My aunt lives in Asheville and we can't contact her. We don't have any idea like we hope she's okay. She's actually in a she had a stroke, so she's in a
Oh,
rehabilitation facility. So I mean, and it's a good one, so hopefully they're being taken care of, but it's pretty tough. Like you just can't
wow.
contact anyone.
Yeah. That's our one thing. I was like, is he gonna fly into something? Can he be able to fly back out?
Yeah. Yeah,
Sean,
Atlanta looked terrible as far as the flooding.
yeah. I've been seeing like videos where it's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet up the wall of water. People are coming back to like everything destroyed.
Yeah, scary.
I store mine in that container too. I also use a blade for each product, i.e. cardstock, glitter, foil, vinyl, iron-on.
Hmm.
I have no way, I would never be able to track it myself for each blade.
I'd have to like label each one. That'd be the only way I would know.
Yeah. See, I reused one that I couldn't get the fibers from a super shedding cardstock out as a tabletop cutting mat. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You can get anything off of those mats. I can tell you all kinds of ways.
Dawn dishwashing
The
soap and like
best.
a light scrubbing. It was like,
Couple
that
of
does a
those.
lot.
Yeah.
That will
Best
save your
wishes.
mats.
Sonia said best wishes. Best wishes. Hope you get news on your aunt soon. Praying for your aunt and
Thank
your
you.
family.
Thank you. My sister's in Charlotte and she's fine. They didn't really have it was just the western part of North Carolina that's so cut off basically because all the roads got washed out and the towns got wrecked and people's houses blew, I mean, it's just
Mm,
terrible. And I know they don't have water at all, running water where my aunt is right
wow.
now. So scary.
Susan said about her match, she thinks it was just stuck in the gouges. Dawn didn't work. And then she also said she's in the Charlotte area. Yeah, we have
Say
a
hi to
lot
my
of people
sister.
out here. I know we have a few people. We have one of our speakers too that may not be able to make it. So hopefully everybody's doing good. Go. Making sure everybody is entered here. Still got people piling in.
Yeah.
So welcome in everybody. If you're just getting here, if you have any questions for Elena, please go ahead and put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand, come up on speaker. Don't be afraid to talk, you guys. We don't mind.
Yeah. I was thinking like, oh, it's Zoom this time, so like we can have
Yeah.
people can actually ask questions and I'll be able to see their faces, and yet not so much.
Usually, yeah, it's pretty good. It depends on your view too. Sometimes it's like weird, but there is 30 people in here right now.
Ah,
Do you tend to do more paper projects or vinyl?
I am definitely more of a paper person. I like vinyl. I honestly don't do it that often. I like making shirts, like t-shirts.
Yeah.
You're my kind of girl. I listen to you and I'm like, yes, yes.
It's good to hear. Kindred
Or
spirits. I
see,
did like some like kitchen towels last year for that Dow's, which I thought those and the see like that pretty cute.
cute.
But I can't use them because my husband destroys all kitchen towels. I see other
Yeah.
people not. Like he just well, I mean, he uses it to wipe up like spaghetti sauce, and so it's ruined. So I can't
Like you're
use
not
nice
supposed to
towels
use
in the
those.
kitchen.
Don't you know those are supposed to be just for prettiness?
Yeah, that is just a pretty towel. Stop using it.
See, do you use Design Space or another program for Cricut? Um,
I use Design Space to cut everything out
yeah.
on my Cricut. I don't design in Design Space, rarely. Um, just because I did. You definitely can, but you can't save SVGs out of it. You can't save anything out of that program. So for me, like I design things to give away or sell. So if you're just designing in Cricut Design Space, then the only way to give that away is to have people give them a link to that, and you have to have Cricut. And I want to be able to give files to people who don't have Cricuts. You know, there are other cutting machines in the world, so I prefer to have SVGs as opposed to like whatever the proprietary file type is for Cricut Design Space. But
Yeah.
you can't export anything out of it. So
No,
Yeah,
this
no.
sucks that way.
yeah,
That's
Because I
all.
have scan and cut, and sometimes I want to use my scan and cut,
yeah.
and I can't transfer between them, and it's annoying me to hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like
I
when
was originally I mean, like I still have a Scanica. I love the Scanica, and that's my original like machine that I started with. And yeah, same. Like I just don't want to not be able to use the files that I design on any machine.
yeah.
Right.
So
I miss when we used to be able to use what was it, shortcuts a lot with the Cricut.
yeah,
I keep holding on to the old licensed version just in case. I don't even
but I
have that
probably have that
Cricut
too.
anymore. Let's
But
see.
did you remember like way back? I don't know how long ago,
That was a while. It was a while.
like 15 years
Yeah.
ago, maybe they like
That's
sued
how I
them.
know I've been doing it forever.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I know Cricket was like suing people left and right who were making with the expression when you had to use the cartridges.
Yeah.
But then sure Cuts-A-Lot would let you design SVGs that would work on the machine. And so then they
Yeah.
got sued and yeah,
They got sued, but if you still had the original license, you could
yeah,
still actually use it. But that means you couldn't upgrade
true.
your cuts a lot. That's why I kept that one for the longest time and it worked forever. And then I got rid of my machine finally.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see. You mentioned sublimation. What types of projects have you done? And can you think of how you could incorporate sublimation into a journal? Lots of
Ooh. I've done tumbler wraps. I've done shirts, like designs for shirts,
I would,
coasters.
yeah, maybe like take sheets of canvas and do sublimation on those. Take the canvas and make those pages. That's what I maybe would do.
Yeah, you could definitely do that.
That'll be
And
fun.
there's like there are like there's clear vinyl that you can like heat transfer onto materials that aren't sublimation friendly and then be able to sublimate on top of that. So like if it's a cotton canvas, you won't be able to sublimate on that just because you can only sublimate on like polyester or, specially coated materials. You could probably get some coated canvas that might work. But you could use that like heat transfer vinyl, or there's like easy subli too that you could do that with, where you could then sublimate on the cotton canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could some
Covers and
Information. Do you
say that
need,
again.
you need like a special printer to print art for sublimation, right?
Yeah, you do.
Which one
You have
do
to
you
use.
recommend?
Well, I have a cheapo converted Epson printer. So I converted an EcoTank printer and just use sublimation ink in that, and use sublimation paper.
Okay.
You have to use specialty sublimation ink for
Same.
anything to be sublimatable. So
Right.
I'm kind of thinking about getting the Sawgrass sublimation printer, but I'm not sure I can justify the cost because they are not cheap. So,
Nothing
but
worthwhile is cheap.
true. I just don't know if I do enough sublimation to like justify it. I don't know.
I've read so many times on trying to figure out like which one's better and how to do it. And it always comes back to the original one that I ended up with, which is the 2803 or the 2800 series on the Eco Tanks. The only bad part is with sublimation printers, it's you have to maintain them because they're always getting clogged.
Mhm.
I haven't touched mine since I moved. I know I'm gonna regret it.
Well, that's the thing I like about this. Well, the Sawgrass one, like, because it's specifically for sublimation, like it does that maintenance, so you don't have to worry about it clogging. But I'm sure my Epson's probably clogged now. I've had to unclog it before, and I'll have to do it again, I'm sure. Because if you don't print stuff regularly, it gets clogged.
Yeah, because of the ink, the type of ink it
Yeah.
is. Pretty easy though to grab one of those printers if you just want to try it just for the heck
Yeah.
of it. I wouldn't go too crazy with it. I would try that type of printer first. Worst case scenario, you could turn your printer back into a regular ink printer. It'll take a little effort, but be good.
I was just going to ask that. Can you convert it back if you needed to?
Yeah. You would have to empty out, basically you'd have to waste out all the ink and empty out all the other sublimation ink. You're probably going to have to like flush it a few times and then
Yeah.
put the other ink in, print that like crazy first, and then finally it'll finish being regular
Gotcha.
ink again. It's the same way
Yeah.
that people do it the other direction. But I would say if you're going to do that, make sure that you're not buying a used eco tank that already has
I
ink in
agree.
it, because you're going to have
Mhm.
to flush it before putting the sublimation to make sure it
Yeah.
works. It takes a while,
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
but it's
And
pretty.
they're fairly inexpensive and relatively speaking, so that's why I did it, because I was like, well, I'm not sure I'm gonna use this enough. So what's the cheapest like eco tank I can find? I
And
think
now
mine's
we
a
ended up,
3850 that I got at Costco like on a
yeah,
Black Friday or something. So it was like, $200 or something, and I'm not sure I want to go any further than that, just because I'm not sure I use it enough.
we ended up getting a DTF printer, so we're gonna see how that one works. That one takes.
Oh wow, fancy.
That one's more for business stuff. That was like my brother's side of
Sure.
the business. It's still sitting in the crate right now. So let's see.
Nice.
You mentioned sublimation. Oh wait, we got that. Let's see. I like to add vinyl to my card projects. I compare
Oh
Cricut
yeah.
to Apple. They don't play with anybody else. They gotten better though, I will say, like a lot better. So I mean, but yeah, we wouldn't design in it as much. What about color paper to sublimate? Color paper. Oh, what about watercolor paper to sublimate? I'm not sure what they mean.
Okay, so the issue with sublimation is that it's not like printing on like with a regular printer where you're just printing ink into, say, paper where it soaks into the paper. It's actually activated when you heat it. And so what happens is the ink becomes a vapor, and then it sublimates directly into the fibers of whatever you are like putting it on. However, it only works on certain kinds of fibers. So paper it won't work on. paper is like made out of more like cotton, like natural fibers. Unfortunately, this is kind of a strictly artificial process. So it really only works with polyester, acrylic, things like that. Now there are coatings you can get that you can like paint onto things to make them sublimatable, in which case you could theoretically sublimate onto watercolor paper if you painted it first with that coating. But you'd have to do that in order to make that substrate sublimatable at all. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense. And there are a lot of things. There may be something like I wonder if UPO, for example,
Yeah, that's what I was
would
thinking.
be sublimatable. It's possible. Like UPO paper, like alcohol ink papers, the things that you use alcohol inks with, maybe. Haven't tried it.
Wonder if you put like triple thick or an acrylic, because I know you can do it on acrylic, but yeah, I don't know if it would be worth the craziness of it, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got I've got some of that coating somewhere. Um, could be worth an experiment. And there may be paper out there that you can buy now that you can actually sublimate on because there are so many things nowadays that you can sublimate on that you couldn't before. So
Yeah.
that's possible.
I mean, I guess you would have to print it and then put it on the treated paper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only way to make
And
it.
then heat it
Yeah.
to get it to sublimate.
Susan just had, wait, that's what everybody recommends. Just can't use it as a printer for paper. Yeah. Yeah, everybody recommends the 20. It's because they're easy and they're cheap enough to grab them. But they're actually really good with printing. See, that's what everybody recommends. Sawgrass is awesome, but same dollar sign, dollar sign, dollar sign.
Yeah.
PSA, if you convert, you void the warranty, so do it after your warranty. Yeah, I mean, I did it as soon as I got it anyway. I voided the warranty like day one. That was
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
yeah. Let's see. I cannot start something that is gonna cost more money.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Oh, I'm seeing like you can
Oh,
sublimate into glitter cardstock. Yeah, I didn't think of
yeah,
that
you
because
can.
glitter
I
is
tried that.
polyester.
I
Yeah.
tried that. If you don't want to invest in a sublimation printer, you can use an inkjet printer and do DTF, direct to film, less money investment. Yeah, kind of. It's a little weird the way that it's not exactly the same when you try to do it with the DTF. It's a true DTF, and that one is a little bit different.
But you know what I did?
Uh,
I did a shower and I wanted to do I first I thought maybe I'll sublimate like those coffee cups, mugs. Wanted to do that. And I put the expenses together and was really expensive. So you can always do a design, scan it, and then send it to a printer's house and have them print it. It's cheaper. You do that too?
Yeah.
That's what my brothers are trying to set up is the DTF printer, but then we ended up getting so crazy with the tool making that it
Yeah.
got put to the side. But now that we moved and now we're all in the same state, they're gonna start doing the DTF printing again. So we just need the room to set it up. So what Charlene was
I
saying.
mean, it's a nice if you're doing an event and you're designing your own theme and you're designing your own thing, you know,
Yeah,
and they have a lot of different.
yeah, because I want a UV 3D, the 3D UV DTF. That's what I want to get, that printer. That was the
Right.
one I was wishing we got because we actually use 3D, the UV, not 3D, UV DTF. That's what we use to put these decals on. So they're
Right.
permanent. You can actually put them on cups and
Yeah.
stuff, and you can put them in the dishwasher and they don't come off. And I was like, oh. So we use them for our tools right now, and they're really great.
Wow.
Oh yeah, Charlene says, oh, I know who to order the DTF prints from now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, anybody have anyone they would recommend that you
I'm like,
can send prints to or designs to?
yeah, give us a month. We'll have it up and running again. But a totally different site, totally different company. That's gonna be my brother's
Yeah.
side of it. I don't want to touch it except for here, make me this t-shirt. Make me this, please. Let's see. I have a Sawgrass 500 and absolutely love it just for the fact that it's self-maintained. Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
They were asking where it was purchased from, Heat Transfer Warehouse.
Mm.
Okay, and then you can sublimate into some glitter cardstocks. Yes, there's a test video for you to do for us. Artistry make sublimation markers, paints, ink pads to use with stamps you already own. Yep.
Mhm.
I have some of the Cricut sublimation paper, but I never use it. Yeah, just cut it. Cut it and do it. Otherwise, it's just
Try
gonna
it
be
and
there.
let us know how it turns out.
I've used their markers. Those are fun.
Yeah, I've done that.
I've used the
I've,
paper. That's fun.
are you talking about like sublimation paper? Talking about the transfer sheets,
Yeah, the
infusible ink?
transfer sheets
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've used that quite a bit.
are fun.
They're fun. Yeah.
I always try to figure out like what to do with the pattern rather than like making a picture or like words. I'm like, I don't know what else to do with it.
Yeah.
I do love the markers though. That does help
Yeah.
doing
The
that.
more I did, like, I have a whole series on my YouTube channel actually showing you how to use those infusible ink pens in
Yeah.
like every machine to make coasters. Because, to just have it so it draws the design
Mhm.
and then you color it in and then you keep transfer it.
It's really fun to give them to the
Those are
kids.
fun.
Here, draw,
Yeah.
and then we'll make a t-shirt. Just don't write any words. Thank you.
You don't trust their spelling.
Well, because you know how you have to reverse it. I know I can
Oh,
go to the
right,
machine
right.
and
True.
reverse
Yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
it's more editing, and then you got to flip it.
Yeah. True.
You can make bookmarks for your journals. Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that's my thing too. I have no idea what to do with the pattern. But yeah, you can make, oh, you know what? Really, you could use the pattern for making a book cover. One of
Oh,
the,
that's true. And then just add on top of it if you want.
you can use it for everything. Cricut, a lot of people don't take advantage of, I think, all the things Cricut can really do.
True.
Yeah.
Very
All right,
true.
we have about 8 minutes, a little under 8 minutes. So get your questions in. It always starts off a little slow and then everybody's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
I still made ornaments too. Those are fun.
I did do
Pretty
those.
easy. But you have to get the specialty, like blanks to sublimate onto them. Same with bookmarks, but those are easy to find.
Have you done like where you use a vinyl like sheet or a sticker to make like sublimated stickers where you put uh what is it, like I'm trying to think of the cover, like a clear cover for your sticker, or you get like clear vinyl or something, and then you actually sublimate on that and then cut out stickers and things like that. I'm always afraid I'm gonna burn it. I would think it would
Hmm.
melt or something. Is it just me?
Are you talking about the laminate?
Yeah, like I've seen people sublimate on the lamination sheets and then make
Yeah.
those into nice, vibrant, laminated stickers, like clear stickers and stuff like that. But I'm always afraid, like, is it gonna burn? Have you tried that? Not yet.
Not if you use the temperature that they recommend, which I don't know what that is, but I have done it for bookmarks. And it does work, but you got to use the temperature. I burnt one because it was too high, but once I read the directions, it all worked out.
Sounds like me. Let me see if I can
Yeah,
try
directions
and do it, and then I'll read the directions later.
right.
Let's see. It says,
Why waste the time and read them first,
oh, I was just
Exactly.
try
Who
it
does
first.
that?
Oh, that didn't work. See, it
Well, I
takes,
always wonder, has anybody used shrink wrap over like a tumbler, like, and then put it in a tumbler press? I had
I've
somebody
done the
recommend that to me,
string.
but I've never done it
I
because I'm worried
did.
it's going to melt.
I did, and I burnt the top a little bit, but other than that, all it is instead of taping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried it, and it's okay, but I think I prefer just to tape it. It is, I've done it like on bigger tumblers, because they always come with the tumblers now. Every time I seem to
Oh.
buy them, they come with, there's like a sleeve, you put it on. And it works fairly good to me, but then I think still sometimes at the top it gets a little iffy depending on the sleeve they say. Yeah.
Okay.
Susan said it takes me forever to get something loaded or designed in design space and then set up. I think that's why I leaned more to traditional paper crafting. How did you make the transition easier, Elena? So
I guess
design.
I'm not, what's the transition between designing something in design space and then
See, it takes
I
me
guess I'm,
forever to get something loaded or designed in design space and then set up. I think that's why I leaned more to traditional paper. How did
oh,
you?
I see. Okay, wait, now I think I get it. So you're talking about like you've gone back to being more like a stamper, traditional card maker kind of person, inks, that kind of stuff. I transitioned because, well, for me, like I don't design in design space, so and I just wouldn't. So like I I've always been like a technological person. I was a webmaster for a while, so I really liked this like designing stuff digitally. So I mean, I had to take classes to learn how to do it, like with Inkscape and Illustrator. But I have kind of, I like combining the two things a lot. So, you can cut out things with your Cricut, like designs, and then add more traditional techniques to it. Like, kind of like in my video for today, where you're taking, like, you're cutting out the leaves and the layers, and then you're using distress inks to really pretty them up because they can be kind of bland if you just leave them as just cutouts. And I'm always like embellishing things. Like I have a hard time just leaving things flat. That is just not what I can do. And even so, things like, where do I have an example? Like I've shown this be in the past, like where, this would be like an insert card that you can cut out from Design Space. And it's fine, like it's kind of cute. But that to me is not really a finished card because coming from the world of traditional card making, that's just blah to me. So like I had to add stuff to it. I mean, it's not that exciting, but it's better. Like I feel like there's definitely an improvement just by adding like sequins and some markers
Yeah.
onto this. So you can always, and here's another one. You can always add your techniques from traditional card making into your Cricut cards or any SVG cards, or use your SVGs in ways that maybe aren't the way that they were designed to be used, where you're cutting them apart and you're, using them as a stencil, or you're creating a background by chopping pieces apart and like just laying them down in a funky way. So you don't have to be like, I am just strictly a Cricut person and I am strictly a traditional card maker. There is definitely a way to mesh those two things together. And even things that are, for me, like this one that is more flat, I guess, because it's mostly just cut out. I nevertheless had to add on like gems and some like a sequin and some Nuvo glitter paste and that kind of stuff, just to give it that like little extra push beyond just like a flat, strictly cardstock card. And that's why things like this, I add like, you can add dimensional flowers on top to kind of make it look a little bit more interesting. And that's also why in a lot of my designs, I layer things together to give it the look of being more complex without it being, like this is really just all different colors of cardstock that are layered together. But that's more interesting than, to me anyway, than like this.
Yeah.
And then I added some, little glitter into the centers and used some foam dots to raise up the sentiment on the front. So you can easily like combine all the techniques you learn making traditional cards into regular cards. Or if I'm into like Cricut SPG cards, if that makes sense.
So let's see. Yeah, she was saying transitioning from traditional Cricut crafting. I like to tell people that just think of your Cricut as another tool, no matter what craft.
Exactly.
Think of it as another tool. If you're a card maker, it's just cutting out instead of you cutting it by hand.
Right.
Or instead of you buying it at the store to put on your cards, you're cutting it instead. It's just another tool. If you're a sewer, it'll cut patterns and things.
Yep.
I think it's freaking awesome for that.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, if you're a scrapbooker, it's just cutting out your embellishments for you or your mats for you. I mean, all those different things. It's just instead of a nice rectangle mat, you're going to get a pretty one with scrolls and everything else instead. It's just another tool in your toolbox. So it's really not
Exactly.
going from one to the other. But there are some people that like just do their things on Cricut and don't really veer off too much. But I just look at it as another tool. See, I use a sublimation vinyl to sublimate on cotton shirts, but I haven't made stickers. He said, thanks, Elena. I'm gonna go get some coffee real fast. Um, that card is beautiful. Beautiful cards. You mentioned using Cricut to make stencils. What material do you prefer as a stencil for objects that are not flat?
Oh boy. You can use vinyl as a stencil. So probably like it's way easier in some sense to use a removable adhesive vinyl, but you can use permanent adhesive vinyl on things like glass because that's really not permanent. So you can use that as a stencil and then remove it off of, round objects, anything like that. You can use it on walls for like, if you want to paint around something on a wall. So that's the cheaper way to go. There are stencil vinyls, that Cricut makes or Cal makes, but I think for non-flat surfaces, you're better off using something that's like much easier to mold around whatever you're trying to stencil over. So
Yeah.
that's where I say like just regular adhesive vinyl is a good thing for that.
Yeah, you don't need anything special. It's pretty good. Yeah, because I did get it like kind of an off direct message, but I feel it's okay that I can share this one. But it's basically they're asking, like what does like your class and all of these have to go into journaling? And I really think it's because we're showing how using your Cricut, it's more about using the Cricut and this stencils and things like that to use into journaling. So you're learning how to use your Cricut to use it for your journaling. Because I've used it for cutting out a lot of my stencils, my bookmarks. So they're just a little bit cuter. How to add them to pages, especially stencils. I don't know how many times I've done stencils just to use them into the journals instead of buying them. Because if I want something specific or I wanted a certain size, that kind of a thing, it's just using technology to do it. I know sometimes traditionally, like for junk journaling and things, it's people think of it, you can only do it if you're using like just junk. There's always that debate. Or things like that. But all the other tools, the paint, everything else, it's just another tool. So we've been discussing like, it's another tool to use for anything. I use it all the time for junk journaling. I have it help me cut out pages, things like that. Many
Tags, letters that maybe you want to put a big letter on a page. There's any number of ways you can use the Cricut. I mean, we're talking more specifically about cards and sublimation just because we kind of went off on that
Yeah, I
tangent.
just went off that
But
way. Cards,
pulling it off back to journaling. I mean,
but I
basically
use
you're
it
just
for
cutting your own
cards.
die cards.
Yeah, I have it for cards that go in my journals, like in the
Yeah.
pockets, stuff like that. So it also helps me make pockets sometimes because I have a really hard
Mhm.
time seeing. So I use it a lot because I can't see it. I can see it on my screen because I can make it bigger and it can do like intricate lines for me. It can cut out little things that I can't, that I want to put in my journal. So there's a lot of them. It was just, yeah. Let me see. Do some of them?
Well, and you can take things like this, you know, like if you're, so we cut out the brown pieces, stuck them on, to say, pretend this is a journal page, you know, then you could paint around that color in it. You can write words. I mean, you can do whatever, I mean, use your imagination. You're not, you know, you don't have to stay in like a box of like, oh, I'm only going to use my paints or I'm only going to use my old recycled papers. You could cut your recycled paper, you know, old newsprints or vintage things out into a shape using your Cricut if you wanted to. I mean, there's any number of ways you can use it, you know, and then use your die cuts as stencils. You
I'm
know,
always
make,
using it for like cutting out, like I made these little tag things, but there's no way I was gonna
yeah,
cut out all of them. I wanted
right.
tickets in my books, and so I cut out those because I don't like fussy cutting.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good if you don't like fussy cutting. Sometimes I will sit there and I'll cut it, but I really don't like it. All right, so last question for Elena, because we're going a little over.
Sorry.
Christy just went to go grab some stuff anyway and then be back. She'll be back in a second because Christy's up next. Do some of them bleed under the adhesive stencils like different brands of painter's tape do? I think they're talking about when using the vinyl for the stencils.
That I can't answer. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I use Oracal as like my favorite adhesive vinyl. I have never used it as a stencil though, so I can't tell you specifically that that's, you know, a good brand for that. But I think that has a lot to do with how you get that adhered onto the surface. You know, so you're gonna have to burnish it down real well to make sure that it's sticking before you start, say, spraying over it or painting over it or whatever it is you want to do to ensure that it doesn't bleed. And if you have like a textured surface, that's going to be tough. Just like painter's tape with on a textured wall, like it's really hard to get that totally adhered down to that surface just because it's not flat. But if it's a flat round surface, you should be able to burnish that vinyl down pretty well so it doesn't leak under it. And again, it's like kind of a matter of practice. Because it's sort of like with the inks, you know, like you have to practice a little bit to make sure you get the stencil you're using flat. Even with like a plastic stencil, say from like Crafter's Workshop and you're jelly printing or something, it's like you have to make sure it's flat before you move forward. And also before you put too much of whatever you're stenciling over it on the material.
Especially junk journals, because junk journals, if you're like mine, they're all bumpy and crazy and all that.
Yeah.
All right, Cricut stencil film. I actually like the Cricut stencil film, yeah. I've used it. It's pretty good. I cut it out of anything. I don't care if it bleeds. But all right.
I'm kind of like, go the cheap route, whatever the cheapest route is.
All right. So I want to thank you for being here.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having me. Thanks everybody for all the questions. Nice to meet all the various artists.
Thanks for being here, Elena.
No problem. Thank you.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
switch
Monique.
you guys
Thanks,
out.
Christy.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Sure, you can hang
Bye.
out.
Have a
make
great
some
rest of the
stuff.
day.
You too.
I'm
Bye-bye.
gonna switch over and I'm going to stop and restart this recording.